Time's up, Ms. Myers. Brian Johnson.
My name is Brian, and I live in Portland. Since most of what I was planning to say has already been said, I'd just like to read some thoughts I've put down to paper over the last few hours. We've heard some people in the industry describe the rules that govern media ownership as outdated. They say deregulation is necessary for them to compete with the internet. The fact that the internet is simply there isn't why more and more people are getting their news there. It's the media's own piss-poor reporting that's driving people away. We do know that when media outlets merge, the result is layoffs. And how does fewer reporters lead to more news? I don't want to hear about what's happening in my own community from the AP Newswire as if they reported it in the first place. The public interest is not merely what the public is interested in, despite what that fellow from the NAB said earlier. Maybe if these people would show a little bit more respect for the public, and maybe if they had a little bit more pride in their journalistic roots, we wouldn't be fleeing from the internet desperate for a real source of news. Commissioners, how can you expect an informed and diverse public to get involved in this democratic process when you only give us a few days' notice? Are you even serious about this? It seems like you're just going through the motions to placate the growing public opposition, and then you'll just vote to deregulate the media anyway, regardless of the overwhelming opposition at every single hearing you've held. I don't know if I'm wasting my time by being here or not. It boggles the mind. I don't understand how you honestly think you're acting in the public interest, or how you think you're being inclusive to those of us most affected by the proposed rule change when you only give us 1 week to get ready and be here. Especially when Senator Cantwell and Congressman Inslee told you folks from Alaska, Idaho, and Oregon wanted to attend and asked for a reasonable amount of notice. What kind of idiot would go out of their way to build opposition like you have?
Roger, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you.
I am a news geek. I love current events. I follow news in the print, broadcast, and internet media. As this country was about to invade and occupy Iraq in 2003, I scoured the media for objective truth regarding the wisdom of the impending invasion. In my searching, I was amazed at the stories coming from two sources that were so unlike those coming from elsewhere. In the United States, the newspaper chain Knight Ridder, now McClatchy Newspapers, was heroic in their investigative reporting that pointed out how misguided an attack on Iraq would be. Outside the US, the BBC provided similar coverage. The mainstream media, comprised of all those media outlets which are now owned by such a very, very small number of mega corporations, had one theme and one theme only in early 2003: let's go to war. How different that message might have been if we'd had true media diversity in this country, if it were actually possible to hear a wide variety of investigative analysis prior to something as important as invading another country. Don't give me the line of, well, anyone can go on the internet and see all these different points of view. For a huge portion of the hardworking citizenry of this country, there is neither time nor energy to ferret out news outside of the mainstream media. We citizens should be able to turn on our televisions at 6:00 p.m. and see a wide variety of viewpoints and analysis. We citizens should not have to be information research specialists in order to be well informed. This is what is meant by the public interest. Don't tell me that market forces will sort all this out. Market forces are concerned about one thing and one thing only: money. Profit. If everything were left to market forces, we would still have slavery and child labor in this country, as both practices were very profitable. Measures such as requiring diversity of media ownership must be taken against market forces for the public interest. Thank you.
Matthew Pfeiffer, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Matthew Pfeiffer. I'm a local high school student attending Nova Alternative High School. 4 days ago, I got to vote in my first election. I took special interest and became involved in the local school board elections. And examining these races closely, it became clear that there was a concerted, well-funded effort to elect a corporate-backed slate of candidates. Most Seattleites depend on these few mainstream sources for issues ranging from environmental, military, and education. And these few mainstream sources endorsed those corporate candidates. Despite a huge grassroots effort to oppose the privatization of our schools, Seattle voters elected every corporate slate candidate to the school board, putting in power the most conservative board in 20 years. The corporate media is already streamlined behind one agenda. The consolidation of media is a consolidation of opinion. The diversity in media is a necessity for a thriving democratic society. And as a conscious citizen, I demand that the FCC defend local media and stop media monopolies. I also want to express my disappointment in the FCC for only giving 5 business days of notice before this event. It's unacceptable. This event could and should have been much more accommodating for all people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Alex Stonehill. I'm an independent journalist specializing in international reporting. Last year, I spent about 7 months abroad covering stories that hadn't been reported in our mainstream press here in the US, especially about how the actions of our government and our people are affecting people in the rest of the world. When I came back, I had a really hard time finding American media outlets to publish these stories. At first, I thought I was doing something wrong, but when I started attending corporate journalism conferences and building relationships with corporate media outlets, I realized it wasn't just my problem. Because of media consolidation, there just aren't very many outlets that offer original international reporting. The big media conglomerates don't find international coverage because they're too concerned with their bottom lines and they think that it's too expensive. Instead, virtually every newspaper in the country buys the same stories from the AP and other news wires. The big news corporations have been closing foreign bureaus at such a rapid pace that today, for all the newspapers in the US combined, there are less than 250 foreign correspondents to cover the entire globe. I'm sure everyone here can agree that it would be disastrous for our country to be cut off from information from outside of our borders at a time when our fates are so interconnected by things like economic globalization, climate change, and our military involvements abroad. But that's just what's going to happen if you relax media ownership regulations further. So please don't do it. And in my last few seconds, Mr. Chairman, in response to your brief statement, please take responsibility for the enormous power that you have, especially in comparison with all of us here, and don't pass the buck on to Congress. Heed our message that media consolidation needs to stop now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Stoutville.